Hey guys, how are you guys all doing? I hope you're doing wonderful. My name is Chantel with Find Your Beautiful You. We are here with another Monday vlog for you, and I wanted to talk to you guys today about mountains. If you guys looked at my last post, which was on my 5 favorite quotes, one of them was about moving mountains, and the reason we have them sometimes is to show other people that we can move them. And it's kind of relating to our trials in life and how sometimes we feel like we've been given this huge mountain of a trial, and we come to realize later on the reason for it is sometimes so we can be more relatable to other people. We can show other people that it can be accomplished and conquered. And so I was starting to think a little bit more about that because I truly love that quote. And I found this other video that I loved, and I wanted to kind of share the perspective with you. And basically it was just on conquering Mount Everest and how we can relate that to our everyday trials. And so if you guys know anything about Mount Everest, I have some of the facts written down about it. But basically it goes, it is 29,029 feet high in altitude, and it is the highest mountain on the earth. We all know that fact. And it was first climbed in 1953 by Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. And since then, there's been, tons of people that have tried to climb the mountain, and many people have died, in fact. And there's actually 200 people who have died, and their bodies have been left on the mountain. And so, to say that climbing Mount Everest is a daunting task is, I guess you could say that's understated. But what does it look like from space? Okay, so here you have the most massive mountain on Earth to us, but what does it look like from space? And so they showed this picture of this image of, the Himalayas and Mount Everest taken by a satellite picture in orbit, and it's very hard to see Mount Everest. Here there's this huge mountain that supposedly is, the tallest one on Earth, and yet it's a tiny dot right in the middle of the picture, and you can barely see it from that height. What about from the moon? Can you spot it from there? Nope, you can't even see it from the moon. So it just has everything to do with your perspective and the way that you see different things. And the farther away that you move from it, the higher perspective that you get from it, the smaller the mountain is. Now let's think about the opposite effect. Now if you think about a dime, which is the smallest coin that we use, and you hold up to your eye, it seems enormous. Okay, it covers your entire eye, you can't see anything else in front of you. But if you were to hold it out, then it is super small, and it almost seems insignificant. Okay, so it just seems it's totally opposite from the Mount Everest. So what is the lesson here that we can learn? In life, we are constantly running into different obstacles of different sizes. Every day we encounter them, and we find a way to deal with them and then move on. That's just what happens every single day. But sometimes we come across an obstacle that we just can't seem to move past, and they seem the size of Mount Everest. They seem huge, they seem daunting, and they kind of seem, to take over our lives. And they block our long-term vision, and they ruin our day, or maybe our whole week, or even longer. They can take away your perspective of what you're trying to get to in the future. And sometimes it can be as trivial as having a bad haircut, which we've all had. It could be a stubbed toe first thing in the morning. It could be an enormous zit on your face that you have to pop on a family portrait day. Other times it could be big things at work. It could be a bad relationship that you're going through. It could be a medical concern, or even a death of a loved one. Okay, no matter what the trial is, when we focus on the obstacle, it becomes enormous. We can't see past it. It's like that dime that we held up to our eye. But if we step back a little bit, we are able to look at the problem with a little bit more perspective. When compared to a whole year of life, how big of a problem does a bad haircut seem? Okay, when we look at the scope of our entire life, how bad does that bad day of work look? 99% of our stress and worry comes from poor perspective. Okay, let me say that again because it is so powerful. 99% of our stress and worry comes from our poor perspective. How many times have you had a bad day or a bad experience only to look back on it later and realize it wasn't as bad as you thought? And that happens all the time, especially when we're in the middle of it. We tend to think of this thing as being truly horrible And it's not until a little bit later after it's been completed or it's passed that we realize it really wasn't that big of a deal. When our focus is limited to only one day or one obstacle at a time, everything about it is going to seem enormous no matter what. But when we zoom out and look at the, from a perspective of a lifetime, everything, well, mostly will seem insignificant. Obviously, we're going to have things that are life-changing, but for the most part, those big, huge, enormous trials that we have are going to be insignificant. And if you believe in a life after this one, which I do, you can see that with an eternal perspective, these problems are really no problem at all. So the next time you're having a bad day or facing a really tough trial, remember to zoom out and look at the big picture. Pull the little dime back away from your eye and ask yourself, how does this fit into the scope of my entire life? So when your Mount Everest comes, and it will, and it comes to every single person, decide to view it from space rather than from the base of the mountain. Okay, make sure you look at that perspective. Take some time to be more aware of the situation, step back, and put it into the right perspective. Because I guarantee you, you can get through that situation with a little bit more ease, a little bit more peace, and things will be a little bit happier for you. And you'll realize that this is just a little blip in the overall scheme of things. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. I hope you guys can look at your Mount Everest in your life and maybe change your perspective a little bit and step back and really gain a better perspective as to where things are going for you. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful week, and we will talk very soon. Bye.